Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. Let's take you back a couple of years. Glendale, Arizona, home of Super Bowl 52. Mahomes versus Hurts lived up to the hype. Those two combined for 6 total touchdowns. But we're not talking about the quarterbacks. There were some crazy calls in this game that ultimately led to the game-winning field goal. The Chiefs standing tall in this game. And as they get set for the rematch in 2025, more than 40 players in this game will be suiting up for the rematch again. Here it is, the game winner. They are inevitable. We just talked to our crew about it and how they're able to do it. A lot of the reason is because of Patrick Mahomes as he gets ready for that three-peat. Here's how he's feeling.
I think you always want to leave a legacy and kind of make your imprint on history, but more than anything, you just want to accomplish a goal that you have with your teammates. When you started saying, Joe, your goal is to win the Super Bowl, we know it's a hard process. We know it's a hard week in and week out, but I'm proud of how our guys have kind of went about that process, and we know it's not going to be easy. This team we're playing is a really good football team, but we're going to go out there and put our best effort out there and play as a team, and hopefully that's enough to get a win.
History tells us that it is, Patrick, but nonetheless.
Yeah. Come on, Patrick. Fire us up. Give us a spicy soundbite.
Come on, Chiefs Nation. Of course, the second time we'll see the Chiefs and the Eagles squaring off again. We know that the Chiefs won it the first time back in 2023, and it got us thinking about all of the other rematches across the Super Bowl. So as you take a look here, these are just all the other ones that we're seeing. We're going to rank them, actually, and to do so, we bring back our Emory Hunt and Tyler Sullivan.
Yeah, hey, guys, welcome back. A lot of nines. It's like Super Bowl 59. There's 9 rematches, like 9 days out. That's like the theme of our show, right? And we're starting at 9, and we're going to go all the way down to number 1 in terms of the best rematch, like Haley just talked about. And you know we have to go back a long time to the 70s and the 80s when we're talking about the Dolphins in the Super Bowl. And that's where we're going to start, Emory, with the Dolphins-Commanders rematch from 72 to 82.
That one, I can understand that one being at 9. You had the 72 Dolphins, obviously they undefeated. And Washington, the only thing memorable about that rematch was the fun bunch. Every time those receivers scored, they collectively did a high five in the end zone. But the Dolphins were still one of the better teams, and that Commanders team then was solid as well. But this one, to me, not as big of an issue. Too far apart for it to be considered a true rematch.
Yeah, and that's really it, right? It's just too far apart for it to feel any sort of crazy connection. Sure, Don Shula was there for both of them, but it just doesn't feel like the same as like we're talking about later on with this Philadelphia Eagles team with the Kansas City Chiefs. Just too far apart.
I don't know, man. These uniforms, I'm living for the old and baggy styles there. Certainly, let's see if this next one will maybe pique your guys' interest.
I was going to say maybe the Dolphins can get some new video like sometime soon. Like, that's tough, man. Sorry, go ahead.
That's 72 season they are holding on to. All right, let's talk about the Rams and the Patriots. They come in at number 8 on this list. And the number one thing, Tyler, that stands out to me about this is that the quarterback in New England is the same guy in both of these games in 2001 and 2018.
Yeah, it's really the bookend of the Tom Brady years in New England, right? Of course, all those years ago in 2001, we all remember what happened. Mo Lewis hits Drew Bledsoe. Brady comes in, leads them to a Super Bowl. And then you just have this unprecedented run of Super Bowls for the Patriots. And it ends in 2018 against the Los Angeles Rams. Of course, it's a different franchise. It's a different city that they were in. It's St. Louis versus Los Angeles. But it is the final Super Bowl of Tom Brady's Patriots career. Of course, played out the 2019 season with the organization, then left for the Buccaneers. It's not necessarily the rematch, but it's more the beginning and end of the Brady years that I think is fascinating with this quote-unquote rematch.
Yeah, it's not really a rematch because you even see it right there. They're not even wearing the same uniforms. This is like 17 years apart. So that's like a full, teenager getting ready to go off to college. So it was funny, though, because on the front end, I remember I was in college at the time when the first Super Bowl happened for the Patriots in the first victory. And we were all split like, is Tom Brady really that good? Or should it go back to Drew Bledsoe? And now on the end of it, we're like, man, Tom Brady, as long as he's out there, they got a shot. They're going to win this thing, and it proved to be true.
Yeah, and it's crazy that we're talking about, oh, yeah, like this is the bookend and of his time with the Patriots, and then he still went on to win one more somewhere else. It's why he's in the GOAT conversation. Okay, Emory, we'll see if this one is like more of a rematch for you. It's a little bit closer. We have the Patriots and the Eagles, Tyler, 2004 to 2017. Why does this come in at number 7 on your list?
Well, I think it's, a little bit of the same thing that we were talking about with the Los Angeles Rams and Patriots, but I do think that this one's a little bit more interesting because it's a rare instance where the winner of the first game did not win the second game. And so, yes, totally different Eagles teams. It's not the Donovan McNabb Eagles. It's the Nick Foles of all players Eagles teams. And so, to me, I just think that adds a little bit more intrigue. Of course, this game was fantastic. It was the Philly special. You have Nick Foles just coming out of nowhere during this playoff run. You have Brady throwing for 505 passing yards in that game, setting an NFL record. It really had all the drama that you would want, and it prevented the Patriots from going back-to-back. And if you expand out to that Super Bowl with the Rams, they would be ones with a possible three-peat of Super Bowls in the NFL. So a lot of history made and also not made in this matchup.
What makes this one intriguing for me, because I remember exactly where I was for the first one at a Super Bowl party, having a nice big plate of Raising Cane's chicken fingers. I didn't even know they catered. And so watching this game, it was the mindset. I was like, the Eagles team should beat this Patriots team. I was still on that hating thing where, man, there's no way the Patriots team is this good. And then on the opposite end, I was like, there's no way this Eagles team is beating this Patriots team. They are so good, and they can win in many different ways. And I was wrong on both counts, so that's what makes this one interesting for me.
I'm a little sad seeing Doug Peterson get showered in Gatorade. And as a Jags fan, there's a lot of hope. We're holding on to that, hoping, to bring that to Duval County. And we all know how that worked out.
Well, we'll get to my trauma in a minute. We've still got some things to unpack for my team later down the road.
A lot to unpack. Okay.
All right, let's stay on track here. We are going to number 6, an even more recent rematch. Emory, I'm going to get you to say at one point that one of these rematches is a true rematch here. Talking about the Chiefs and 49ers. In both of these games, though, it was like the Niners were right there. And then, like Tyler said earlier, Thanos, the Chiefs sort of stepped up. But what stands out to you about this even closer rematch here, Emory?
Very much in the room now. We're in the room. We're on opposite ends of the room, though. But I do like the fact that we still have some of the same players here and some of the same coaches and some of the same scenarios. It comes down to who do you trust with the football, and it's always going to be Patrick Mahomes and his Chiefs defense making plays at the most crucial parts of the game to win them the Super Bowl as well. So it's always a team effort, especially when these two teams meet up. One guy makes the play, one guy doesn't at quarterback, and the defense steps up and makes the biggest play of the game.
Yeah, it's different quarterbacks for the 49ers in this. Of course, it was Jimmy Garoppolo in that first game, Brock Purdy in the second. But we're talking about both of these matchups that were just flat out awesome. I mean, there was an opportunity for Jimmy Garoppolo to connect with Emmanuel Sanders for basically a Hail Mary with 90 seconds left to go that would have given the 49ers the lead. And then who knows what happens. And of course, last year, first ever, one of the first ever overtime games or Super Bowls in NFL history. So it just feels like a lot of history here between both of these teams. Of course, it's the beginning of the Chiefs dynasty. It's the continuation of the Chiefs dynasty, possibly going back to back and now setting up a three-peat. So again, just, it's more of a rematch than the prior ones, and now it's setting up a little bit more history.
What I'll never forget about the one in 2023 is that somebody at my Super Bowl party had a Mecole Hardman anytime touchdown, and so it cashed in just at the right moment. It's like quite literally the most clutch bet ever that cashed in. All right, now we're getting into the top 5, right? So we have Chiefs Eagles 2022-2024 season. And Tyler, I love that this is a top 5, and we haven't even seen the second part of this rematch yet.
Well, truth be told, I put it in the middle because the story's unwritten yet. We don't know which way we're going to go, right? Like, this could be an absolute snoozer of a Super Bowl, hopefully not, and then it goes all the way back down to 9. If it's awesome, then this thing has the potential to go up to number 1 because of how awesome both of these teams are and how unprecedented Kansas City Chiefs run could be here, possibly winning 3 straight Super Bowls. And on the other side, like we were talking about earlier, there's a world here where Saquon Barkley puts the finishing touches on one of the greatest seasons of any any player in NFL history, going for over 2,000 yards in a regular season, obviously going from the Giants to the Eagles, possibly even winning an NFL Super Bowl MVP. He's got the second best odds. So there's a lot to be determined here in this matchup that could really set up for some history.
Listen, I like this one here at 5 because I think it's going to elevate higher because we got a great one in the first one. We'll get a great one in this one, and we'll see the Eagles right some wrongs. I think we'll see the difference be Saquon Barkley. We'll see the difference being a secondary that can actually cover and turn the ball over, be the reason why they win this ball game.
I'm going to ignore that wink, but I also love Tyler Sullivan learning his lesson from that MVP yesterday when you went all, what's the word I'm looking for, over the top with the Bills MVP picks. Today you went right in the middle, so I love that. You can't go too high, can't go too low.
We're living and learning.
Yeah.
Perfect. Love it.
That's all we can ask.
Coming to you for this next one here at number 4, it is the Niners and the Bengals. Truth be told, I was not even a thought when these games are being played, but I do know that anytime Emory, Joe Montana is part of the equation, it is certainly a memorable experience.
Here's an underlying tidbit about both of these games. Chris Collinsworth played in both, and people forget how good he was as a wide receiver. And listen, the Bengals at the top of the decade was really good, and this is the sense of if you win those games, we look at you differently. They would have been the team of the 80s as opposed to San Francisco, because the Bengals from 81 all the way through the Boomer Esiason era were really good, especially on offense, but they kept running into the Denver Broncos, the Buffalo Bills, and in the Super Bowls, the San Francisco 49ers. I love this one being up this high.
You know, just been a tough time for the Bills in the Super Bowl era. They've been there a few times and just haven't been able to get a win. Of course, they played my Cowboys a couple of times back-to-back years. And one thing about the Dallas Cowboys, we can't beat the teams that we're supposed to when we're supposed to beat them, Tyler. But I tell you what, when it comes to the Bills and the Cowboys in the Super Bowl, we know how to get it done.
Yeah, and I debated putting this one up even a little bit higher. I know I have it at number 3, but this is a legitimate rematch. The only time that we've ever gotten a Super Bowl on back-to-back years. So there is that we throw into this equation. And of course, as you referenced there too, the Buffalo Bills, this wrapped up that 4 straight Super Bowl run where they just weren't able to get it done. And meanwhile, on the other side, you have the Dallas Cowboys sparking up their dynasty in the early 90s, really going for all of those Super Bowls. So you have a great quarterback matchup here in Troy Aikman and Jim Kelly. You have Emmitt Smith going for over 130 yards and 2 touchdowns in that latter Super Bowl. So overall, you have stars, you have heartbreak, you have new dynasties being formed. That's why I like this one at number 3.
Yeah, I like this one at 3. Well, I probably would push it up even higher because there's some context here. This was the 3rd Super Bowl for the Bills. They were 0-2. They got blown out by Washington the year before, and they lost that heartbreaker to the Giants in the first one. And in this one, in 92, they weren't as good, in my opinion. They had to beat the Oilers in Week 17. No, they lost to the Oilers in Week 17, and then they had to have the greatest comeback in playoff history to move on in the wild card round against those same Oilers the next week. So that's why they got the doors blown off against the Cowboys in 92. Then in 93, they had their best team, I felt like. They were strong. They beat the Cowboys early in the season. Caveat, Emmitt Smith was in his holdout. He didn't play in that first game, and the Bills won by 3. So everyone thought, oh, they beat them earlier. They can get this thing done. They get to the Super Bowl once again, and the Cowboys just overly tough again. So, and that was the last time we saw Buffalo in the Super Bowl. So for me, this was a great rematch because they got to see if they could do it again. They got a little bit of taste of false sense of security in Week 2 against the Cowboys without Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith was back. They got the full Cowboy team in that Super Bowl, and they lost 30-13.
So, guys, when we were, shelling out these topics, of course, Haley wanted to talk about this one. She did not want to talk about the Steelers and the Cowboys. And this is a rematch that we have, times 3, 75, 78, and 1995, where, I mean, it's tough when this last one is the last time that the Cowboys won the Super Bowl, Tyler.
It was.
Yeah, it's been a long time for Jerry Jones. It's been
Just lay it
tough,
on me.
But it's I don't mean to, but it's more Jerry Jones than anything else. But you have 2 storied franchises here, of course, the Dallas Cowboys, Pittsburgh Steelers. In this run of rematches, it's the first time that any organization has ever won 3 Super Bowls, and the Pittsburgh Steelers being able to do that. You have just unbelievable individual performances. Of course, you have Lynn Swann in the 1975 season. He returned after a concussion, set a Super Bowl record with 161 yards receiving in that game. You go to 78, you have the infamous Jackie Smith drop, you have Roger Staubach versus Terry Bradshaw. Anything that you kind of want in these games, drama, failures, great quarterback play, it just felt like you got it.
Oh, that's right. Emery's not. He gets our last one here. Sorry, that's my bad. I was lost in the highlights there.
Lost
that Cowboys win.
and the Cowboys being
I was
in a Super
just
Bowl.
watching the Steelers lose to my team. All right, guys, let's wrap this up with the #1 team, or the #1 rematch on you guys' list. It is the Patriots and Giants, of course. How could we forget? And Tyler, you kind of alluded to this earlier with Eli Manning and his legacy and how he was able to solidify that. It came from this rivalry series.
Yeah, and I feel like when they assigned me to do these rankings, they knew that I had to address this at a certain point, being a Patriots fan. And yeah, of course, it's absolutely brutal. But taking that out of it, these are some of the best Super Bowls of all time. Of course, go to 2007 when the Patriots were trying to go for that perfect season, 19-0, and you have that record-setting year from Tom Brady and Randy Moss, and all of a sudden here comes Eli Manning, of all players, and throwing it to David Tyree, who catches it on his helmet. And you have Rodney Harrison, who's a Hall of Fame player, and somehow couldn't jar that ball free. You fast forward a few years later, and you have the similar type of storylines. Can the Patriots finally get over Eli Manning, get back into the winner's circle? And you see it right there. Mario Manningham somehow toe-tapping his way. And you have, again, just another heartbreak for the New England Patriots in a scenario where at the time, again, they won 3 more Super Bowls after this way down the line. But that narrative started to come around like, okay, are they ever going to win this again? Brady went from 3-0 in Super Bowls to 2-3, dented his legacy a little bit.
Speaking of legacy, I'm glad you guys came to me last for this last word, because we can't let these 2 games overshadow the entire career of New Orleans' own Eli Manning, because the first Super Bowl was more about the defense. The second Super Bowl, I'll tip my cap to Eli, because that was a fantastic throw to Manningham. Because if you put Eli in based off 2 Super Bowl victories and ignore the whole career, then put Jim Plunkett in, put Phil Simms in, this is not a Hall of Fame player, at least not first ballot, but those are 2 excellent Super Bowls because of how they finished. I'm off my soapbox.
Oh, well, I was going to say, Emory, that is quite the soapbox.
Talk about a mic drop.
Yeah, Tyler, Emory, we certainly appreciate it. Going through all of the Super Bowl rematches and ranking them 1 through 9. And not only is Tyler Sullivan a Patriots fan, so is our producer, Mike. So I know it really hurts both of them to be watching this segment and seeing the Patriots and the Giants in 07 and 2011 being #1 on this rankings list, according to Tyler Sullivan. Speaking of the Super Bowl 59, we got a whole crew that is going out to NOLA, Kyle Long, Katie Mox, JJ, B-Mac, Pete Prisco, to name a few. We got live coverage coming your way ahead of Super Bowl 59 starting on February 5th.